Today I'm going to show you what happens when you give your bees too much space. Take a look under this board. It's a ventilation screen, but as it's been left on for a little bit too long, the bees have been exposed to too much space. And when you give bees too much space, they create havoc. So you can see, taking off the lid, it doesn't look quite right. There's no nice order, and the bees are not respecting the space that they've been given. Now, most modern beehives are built around the premise that you have a single bee space or a back-to-back bee space where the bees can move freely throughout the beehive. Now, this space, give or take, is about 8 millimeters deep. And why that number is so important is that if it gets any smaller than that, what the bees do is they block up the gap. They seal it off with wax and propolis, and they'll leave these perfectly formed 8 millimeter gaps throughout the colony. If you leave them at any more space than 8 millimeters, which is exactly what we've done in this instance here, you will see that the bees just go ahead and fill it with wild comb, which is again interspersed with these little 8 millimeter bee space tunnels for the bees to move around freely. So within a properly set up beehive, you should be managing that space. And you can manage that space in a number of ways by making sure that your frame spacing is correct. That is where you have your combs next to each other, making sure they're all compressed together so you have no comb in the middle. But then you also work that space vertically as well. And the beehives are built around either a bottom bee space design like a national setup or a top bee space design like a Langstroth setup. And if you put the wrong box on the wrong box and create, say, a double bee space, or you do what I've done here and take the wrong lid and leave them with too much space above them on a top bee space design like a Payne's Polynational, then you end up with comb just exactly like this, which is free wild comb, not where you want it. And now I'm going to show you how to clean it all up, reset that space and get it back to exactly where it needs to be. So it's one of those times when the smoker really does come in handy, and most of the time I just have my smoker lit and just leave it off to the side just in case I need it. But what we want to do here is we want to drive the bees down. I need to get all of this wax off, and I'm going to use a hive tool to get it off. But if I try to do it now, you can see like there's just lots of bees in the way. I'd end up killing all of them. So you can try and brush them off, but it will just take forever and you will end up damaging a lot of the bees. Much easier with the smoker. So you can see even just with a couple of puffs of the smoker there, you get the bees to run, and you can see what they've been creating there, which is lots of nice honey. Wow, look at this thing. So there we go. Really nice. Well, that was absolutely delicious. It really is nice. I'm kind of tempted for you to have a, do you want to have a taste? Because it is quite nice. You like honey, didn't you? You don't like, okay. Okay, Zane's shaking his head. I thought you'd like that, Zane. But let's get back to work with the smoker and let's drive the bees off that honey. Now, it's one of the rare times that I really go quite hard with the smoke there, because you can see, even with all of that smoke, I've still got tons of bees. You really do need to drive them off a frame, clean it up, and then go back in and drive them off another frame, because as you can see, they come back so quickly. So all I do once I've smoked the bees down is just take my time with a hive tool, and as you can see, the bees do go down eventually with the smoke. You can scrape the wax off, and then all I do is I put it off to one side and I put it in my wax scrap bucket and I render it all down at the end of the year. Don't throw away your wax. Definitely don't just chuck it on the ground because it is a disease risk. You'll be amazed how if you just carry a bucket around like this and every time you have an off-cut of foundation or a bit of nice cappings wax or a bit of burr wax from the beehive and you just chuck it all in here, you get loads and loads by the end of the year. Really, really nice for making lip balms. So you can see we completely reset the space here. We've still got the issue horizontally that we need to fix by making sure that all of the spaces and all of the slots are filled and all of the frames are touching each other. So I'm completely set now horizontally. Now, if you understand about bee space now and you know that there can only have an 8 millimeter gap above the top of these frames, and if you zoom right in here, Zen, you can see this 8 millimeter gap here. It's actually shown on the beehive. So 8 millimeters is really not that much. This space here above the frames is exactly what you're looking for. So you can see why if you leave the bees too long with the ventilated screens on like this, there's just way too much space. I'm going to tap all of these bees off. I'll scrape this one off as well, and then I'll show you how to completely fix it. And I say fix it, all you really need to do is use all of the components that come with it, because there's a really key component missing here, and this component would fix the problem, but when we send the bees out in the post, we cannot include it for obvious reasons. So the answer is quite clear. You obviously need some form of crown board to give you that correct spacing above the frames, this 8mm gap. Now, the reason that we can't send you the poly crown board when we send you the nuke is that we add the ventilated screens on to ensure the bees are ventilated in the post. If you put the poly crown board on there and then put the ventilation screen on top, you might as well not bother with the ventilation, and we wouldn't be able to send bees in the post that way. But there is a really easy fix, and it's just using some of this 250 micron thick plastic, and you can just roll it off in a sheet, take the scissors like that and cut it to size. And although it's a little bit floppy and it's not going to give you the perfect spacing across the whole frame like that, what it will do is that when you put the screen on, it will stop the bees being able to get up into that space, and it will limit the amount of burr comb that is created on top of those frames. And it's as simple as that, but you know me, I don't like to leave you hanging. I like to show you what's happened a couple of days after. So I was here a couple of days ago and I did the same thing. I took the burr comb off and put this polyethylene crown board on, and I'll show you exactly what it's looking like now. So you can see, even though it's not perfectly on there, it's still allowing the bees to walk across the top of the frames. It's giving them more than sufficient space to be able to walk pretty much wherever they want, and you might get like some low spots here and you'll get a little bit of comb being built. But what you won't get is anything up here. It's going to be confined to underneath the film. But as you can see, all the way over here, all the places that the bees are moving, they're definitely not going to block those bits up. But then if you look over here, see how nothing's on this frame? Maybe that's a little bit low, and we might start to see that being properlised down over time. But having an understanding of what is causing that chaos, why the bees are building the comb in the way that they are, is really important to understanding how to actually manage it as well. So there we go. I've showed you what happens when you give your bees too much space and showed you how to fix it. If you want to learn more about beekeeping, check out our course, 14-Day Beekeeper, that will turn you from a beginner to a competent beekeeper in just 2 weeks.